Good day, friends. Operation Sindoor is on pause. Relations between India and Pakistan are extremely tense, and there are Indian political leaders who are making provocative statements on Pakistan at a time when the Indian army has still not grasped the fundamentals of the next war after Operation Sindoor that it will be required to fight with Pakistan. A Pakistan fully supported by China, as we saw in Operation Sindoor. So I'll talk all those things. 2 days back, we know the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, he said that Sindh, which is a province of Pakistan, is civilizationally a part of India. He also said that borders can change, suggesting that Sindh could become physically a part of India, a hugely provocative statement, and Pakistan reacted. But Rajnath Singh is not the only RSS leader to talk like this. In 1998, the then Home Minister L.K. Advani, he had an interaction with the then US Deputy Secretary of State Strobe Talbot. And this interaction has been mentioned by Talbot in his book, Engaging India. Talbot writes that my session with Advani was unnerving. Advani mused aloud about the happy day when India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Myanmar would be reunited in a single South Asian confederation, what the RSS calls Akhand Bharat or Greater India. Now, the point is that what Advani said in 1998 was entirely different because the equation or the military matrix between India and Pakistan at that time was entirely different. They both used to fight at the tactical level of war, and this has changed drastically after Operation Sindoor, and which is the reason why the Pakistan side reacted to the provocative statement of Rajnath Singh. So let me explain how the situation has changed fundamentally, because this is what the Indian army has still not grasped. Operation Sindoor, we know, and we also know that recently a distinguished US panel, it gave a report to the US Congress. It's a very voluminous report, about 800 pages, where commenting on Operation Sindoor, it says it was a 4-day clash in which Pakistan achieved military success over India. How did they come to this conclusion? To anybody who understands warfare, it is not difficult to understand, because the world saw that the Pakistan Air Force fought at the operational level of war with a concept of what they called multi-domain operation. Then, the Bedu system, the satellite constellation, was available to the Pakistan military, both for surveillance and for accurate missile targeting. Then the world saw that the Pakistan Air Force had good control over electronic warfare, and Pakistan military showcased good cyber capabilities in the Kashmir theater. Then there were Pakistani cruise missiles and Pakistani short range ballistic missiles. Now, when we talk short range ballistic missiles, we are talking of missiles with depressed trajectory which do not leave the atmosphere. All these were fired. Now, on the Indian side also, there was good firing shown by the cruise missiles and the short range ballistic missile. But there is a problem. And the problem is that the GPS help was taken. And given the relations today President Trump has with President Modi, with Prime Minister Modi, there is no guarantee, there is no assurance that when Operation Sindoor restarts or the pause is lifted, the Americans will give the GPS facility to India or they will switch it off. So this is a problem. But talking about the Pakistani side, what they have done is learning the lesson of Operation Sindoor without wasting time. They announced the raising of a rocket force command against under the Pakistan Army. Now, when you raise a rocket force command, it means an assurance must have been given by the Chinese to them that they will be provided with hypersonic cruise missiles, which is a game changer. Then, through a constitutional amendment, the Pakistan Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, also has become the Chief of Defense Forces, implying one single man who will decide war, the stages of war, everything with Pakistan, so the decision making will be very swift on the Pakistan side. Then the US Congress report also talks about the Chinese who are to give 40 J-35 fifth generation fighter aircraft to the Pakistan Air Force, and the Pakistanis will get anti-ballistic missile systems from China, which are the HQ-19 and the KJ-500 AEWC. They will get all these things. So the point is very simple, that the Pakistanis are determined to fight at the operational level of war with the newly raised Rocket Force Command under the Pakistan Army and the Pakistan Air Force. And the Chinese are willing to fully support them in this fighting at the operational level of war. Now, here is a very important thing that I want to say. When you fight at the operational level of war, that means you are able to penetrate the enemy in depth. And once you penetrate the enemy of depth, what this means is that the defenses of the enemy, they unravel. Simplified, this means is that the follow-on forces, they are totally cut off and they are unable to reach the frontline forces. So whatever are the frontline forces, which is the army doing tactics, it is just in wilderness with nothing to support it, and therefore its contribution to the war outcome is minuscule. So until now, what used to happen is, before Operation Sindoor, both the Indian military and the Pakistan military and the two armies also, they used to fight at the tactical level of war. Now the situation has changed. Therefore, what the Indian army or the Indian military should have been doing is also looking at the possibility of how fast the Indian side can prepare to fight at the operational level of war with Pakistan, and that would include looking seriously at also having a rocket force command, looking seriously of how to further developing the little capabilities that it has to further develop electronic warfare, cyber capabilities, and to see how it can get round the clock space capabilities from where they should be assured round the clock. And very important, two things. Number one, the Indian Air Force should be given free hand in acquisition, free hand in training without any political interference, then it can surely deliver. And the other thing is, Indian side has to prepare for surge capabilities. What that means is that in a short war, there should be no worry that the ammunition is not enough. So we have to go very carefully in spending the ammunition. Something that the Pakistani side will not have. They will not have that worry because it will be supplied uninterrupted by the Chinese side. All this the Indian side should have been doing and focusing on and talking about it. Instead, what we have is the Indian army doing its public relations. I call it public relations. Why? Because on Kargil Divas, which was 27th of July, the Army Chief General Dwivedi announced that the Indian Army will be raising Rudra brigades. Now, what is Rudra brigade? Indian Army has something like 260 single arm brigades. Instead of single arm, they will be converted into multi-arm brigades, and they will be utilized for swift and multi-prong attacks on different axes. Multi-arm brigades means that they will have infantry, they will have artillery, they'll have armor, they will have air defense, they will have engineering capabilities, they have logistics. So all these things will be put together. And obviously this idea has come from late General Bipin Rawat's tenure when he was the army chief, which was from December 2016 to 2019. He, in his tenure, had come out with the 2018 Land Warfare Doctrine, where he spoke of the need for the IBGs, the integrated battle groups. Now, this was a lesson learned from Operation Parakram. I won't go in those details. The long and short is that during Parakram, that happened when Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, it took very long for the Indian Army to mobilize. So instead, what the Army decided, let's have these battle groups, and these battle groups can immediately start the war. And they called it cold start. Cold start basically meant that they will be very close to the border, And before the main effort or the strike cause come, and instead of wasting that time in their build up, this can immediately launch and get on to the other side, and also prepare the bridgehead to allow the strike formations or the reserve formations to pass through into enemy territory. Now, when it was called cold start in 2005, this concept was given by the then army chief Nirmal Vij. The government, which was the Manmohan Singh government, it reacted because cold start had a different meaning altogether, and the Pakistanis also reacted with the concept of full spectrum deterrence. As far as nuclear weapons were concerned, a new policy came up. And so the name of cold start, it was made into a proactive strategy, which is what it was. That time will be less if you have a lot of forces close to the border. It doesn't mean that you immediately launch and get on the other side. But now what the army chief has suggested is that first of all, it will not be cold start, it will be cold strike, whatever that means. See, this is all play on words. It's propaganda, it means nothing at all. Let any officer explain me what is the difference between a cold start and a cold strike. So, and along with that, having these Rudra brigades, as I said, this is meaningless because if you do not have the capabilities to fight at the operational level of war, then there is a problem, as I have already explained. And now we are told that two Rudra brigades, either they have already been positioned against China or very soon they'll go there. Now, when you see the gap between the PLA and the Indian military, what strikes you is that PLA today has the capability, if there is a war, God forbid, with India, to start and finish the war at the operational level itself. And what will be left as far as the Indian army is concerned will be the mopping up operation. This is the capability we have. And the Americans acknowledge their capabilities. So the point I'm making is that cold strike, Rudra brigades, honestly, this is all meaningless. This is all rhetoric. And then there is also talk about Bhairav light commandos, which is special forces. What the infantry already has, Ghatak platoons, so they are to be converted into Bhairav light commandos, again to go behind the enemy lines. So again, I come back to that same point that don't put the cart before the horse. Go methodically, build up your capabilities because the dynamics have changed, and start looking at capabilities at the operational level of war. Thank you so much.